Thank you so much for coming to check out the StashCast, where we have interesting conversations with interesting people focused on the world of commercial real estate and PropTech. The StashCast is brought to you by Needle. What if you could use data and analytics to predict transactions before they are going to occur? You can with Needle. Come check it out at Needle, NEDL.us to learn more. All right. Today we have my good friend, Jonathan Khorsandi. I'm super excited about this. Jonathan, we've known each other for quite some time. We met back when we were both in LA, but why don't you give the people an idea of who you are and what you do?
Sure. Thanks for having me, Stash. So I think we met 15-ish years ago. We're
Yep.
both in real estate. You're still in real estate. I am in prop tech as well, but not in commercial real estate. And I think at the time we were both cranking out 400 or 500 calls a week,
Yeah.
pounding the phone hard. Yeah. And I think during that process, I realized it wasn't for me. I was able to put some deals together and they fell out of escrow. And I went through that roller coaster. Wow, like $15,000, $20,000 in commissions coming in because this thing's definitely going to happen. And then no one told me that things could fall out of escrow,
Hmm.
even though they went into escrow. So I was like, what? I don't like that. I have zero control over my own financial destiny. The workflow didn't work for me and didn't really work for my character. So I peeled off from that and started a prop tech company that's focused around lead gen for real estate agents and investors in the probate space. And that's been going strong now for a good 14 years almost. We're based out of Long Beach, California. We've serviced over 8,000 agents, and there's roughly 3 million agents out there, so we still have a bit to go as far as I'm concerned. So I built that, and then prior to that, I had a software company as well prior to my stint in property in commercial real estate. And then over the last 15 years, just been growing those real estate prop tech companies. And then recently moved to Paris 3.5 years ago, my wife and two kids. And then I got recruited here by one of the business school. They have an incubator as well. They're part of Station F, which is they say they're the largest incubator in the world, which I tend to believe because there's at any given time, there's about 1,000 to 1,200 startups in there. And
Wow.
then they recruited me to coach their startups into growth mode. So over the last few years, I've really enjoyed coaching and consulting with 30. And then just about a year and a couple months ago, I co-founded with my partner, Alexi. We started an agency here in Paris that's really focused on helping interesting companies, for your tagline, interesting conversation with interesting people, like
Yeah.
interesting companies that have like interesting tech in the B2B space, but are having a challenge building a sales pipeline. So we use common sense and AI and automation to build pipeline like 1 million, 5 million, 10 million, 20 million at a time. And we help them scale it and build it for them. And it's really rewarding because I was just talking to my business partner on the way back from lunch. All our clients are really different in different industries, and we're all learning so much from them because if they're like one is in selling AI solutions, operating solutions to hospitals, another one's selling farming, agricultural technology, another one is selling technology for hotels. Like it's really interesting. Another one's e-commerce. They do wordless search. So they all have really interesting and fascinating things, which keeps us on the learning edge, I would say. So I really like that. And also I like being back in Europe because I was born in Europe and raised here till I was 19. So Denmark and Germany. So it's after spending 26 years in the States, mainly in LA and Silicon Valley and San Diego, it's been quite a journey. Yeah, I'm 49 now. And
49 and handsome as ever.
thank you very much. You're too kind. I'm looking forward to the next 50 or so. So I
Yeah.
feel like I'm just beginning to figure out a few things about life, what matters, and as far as I can tell. So it's a good learning curve to be on.
Yeah. I want to talk about what you're doing now, but I'm curious, what was your first startup venture and how did you decide to pursue that? And what were the learnings that you took from that?
Yeah, so I think my first startup venture, it depends how do you define startup? Because I come from an entrepreneurial background in
Yeah.
terms of in my family, my grandfather, my dad, my uncles, they all had the entrepreneurial strike and some were more successful than the others. So I went down that path, but by the age 27, I was faced with almost bankruptcy. So that was my first startup, going all in, going really hard. And I had to find a way to I was too proud to file a bankruptcy. So instead of, I sold everything I had, including an amazing condo on the Wilshire corridor, like Wilshire in Westwood, like facing UCLA, and it was perfect. I still have regrets selling it, but I had to get out of that and then start from scratch. But that was my first company. I was working for a Silicon Valley startup, and then after that, I started my own company, which was not a tech company. It was more of a trading company. So we bought and sold closeout computer parts, computer hard drives and batteries and laptops and desktops. And we made a deal with Compaq. I don't know if you remember those guys. There was a
Yeah.
computer company called Compaq. Yeah. Right around that time, they started selling computers online. You could custom build your own computer and laptop, and then they would ship it to you. Well, a lot of these orders got canceled or the credit card didn't go through after they had built it. So they went back to their warehouse and it's called reverse logistics. And the problem they were facing was they didn't knew what was coming into their reverse logistics warehouse. So they just had this huge pallet of inventory and they didn't know what it was and just want to get rid of it. And then they had guys coming in and selling and buying for pennies on the dollar and didn't know how much they were losing until it was end of the quarter, end of the year, and they realized how much money they lost. So
Mhm.
we proposed, I partnered up with someone who had a warehouse and I said, we'll handle the reverse logistics, send it to our warehouse, we'll verify that the claim is legit. So as a result, long story short, we got our hands on really good inventory, new tech, and then we turned around and we sold it on our own website, we sold it on eBay, and we did really well. And we enjoyed it. We had a lot of fun with that. And we did about 1 million in sales, just retail, right out the gate, the first
Wow.
8 months. And I think at the age of 27, 20, I was 25, 26, 27. And when you get that kind of like you're doing 1 million a year in sales, like your ego just goes nuts, right? So
You feel like you're bulletproof and unstoppable.
yeah, and to my daughter loves like Greek mythology, so to borrow a story out of there from the Icarus, I flew too close to the sun and I crashed and burned, and then like my wounds took a job after that, and then 2 years went by, and then I started my next one, which was a software company, which was a different story. Yeah, but that was my first one was like hustle, yeah, and then make a lot of money early on.
Yeah. Huh. That's awesome. So you were buying the inventory from Compaq and then reselling it and
Yeah, and then HP bought out Compaq, and they're like,
okay.
we don't need you anymore.
Oh,
I said, but we have a contract that said will sue us. I'm like, what? I'm going to sue HP. You- You're way better funded than I am. So I decided to do something else. Yeah.
you hit a wall, literally.
Yeah, pretty much literally hit a wall. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I remember, I think I feel like it was the last time we were together. It was like an inflection point. We were back in LA and we were, like you said, pounding the phones and getting a whole lot of nowhere. This was 2010, probably. So we were in the depths of the reception or the recession, excuse me.
Yeah.
And you're like, let's go for a walk. And so we went, it was you, me, and the guy that was doing hotels. I forget his name, but he was a sweetheart of a guy. And we just went, sat, had lunch in the park, and we're like, what are we doing? And it was like an inflection point, I think, for all of us, because I think shortly thereafter, we all went our separate ways. And you just, there's only so long you can last in brokerage when you're not bringing in any cash.
Yeah. I remember I was dead broke living with my mom, and I had just met currently my wife, but back then I started dating her and I was like, man, she's special and this is the one, and I want to propose to her, but I have no money to in my name. And I was like, this isn't and I wasn't happy. I didn't enjoy the work. I'm working really hard now, but I work with people that I enjoy being with it and on projects that I find intellectually stimulating. So it's different. But back then it was just cold calling, just like a monkey, just picking up, saying the same thing over and over again.
That's what I do. I still do
Yeah,
that.
but speaking of cold calling, maybe we can talk about this some other time. We have some ideas about that, how we can use technology for it, but
Yeah.
it's a new tool we're building inside our agency. We're building tools for our clients that we see that is needed, but the marketplace doesn't have, so we just built it in-house. So we're building our first AI tool that's launching in 2 weeks, and it has to do with calling inbound, outbounds, and using conversational AI to get through the grunt work.
So that's curious. I've seen some of those things advertised on like Instagram, and I think it's maybe all right for setting appointments, but a lot of what I'm doing, you're calling a principal of a company,
Yeah.
and I don't know that I could necessarily use conversational AI to hey, are you interested in this development site? As a for instance.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that, but you can use it to generate curiosity. It's basically, imagine you have a 16-year-old strong boy, right? And you see the physique, you're like, this kid can go anywhere. And this kid starts training out and working out and is building a tremendous strength and physique. And you're like, well, you can go into CrossFit, you can go to basketball, baseball, volleyball, water polo, whatever you man. You choose the world is yours. And then this
Yeah.
kid picks like, I don't know, basketball. And he gets specifically into basketball. And then you fast forward a few years and he's in the NBA and he's doing really well. He's LeBron James. You're like, wow, okay, that's what's what happened to him. The same rule applies in AI. Like you have a base level of a language model. Now,
Hmm.
how you train it and how you develop it, you don't need to wait years like you had to do with LeBron James to figure out he was a superstar. You literally iterate as fast as you can. You give it certain rules and then you train it towards where you want it to come. And then as it goes through more and more, it becomes better and better. But the thing with AI, it never sleeps and you don't need to feed it. You just need to give it, it's thirsty for learning, basically. So without getting into too many of the details, you do have a point. And I think that what's advertised on Instagram is just like plain vanilla basic stuff without thinking through the actual business case. So you don't want to replace robocall spammers with now AI spammers. There's actually an FCC ruling that was passed on February 8th that makes it forbidden to impersonate human voice with AI for the sake of telemarketing. So people, if you wanted to call on people, they'll have to give you the express consent that they want to be called by you. So it means they have to be opting in for something. So we're building something for our clients because we have really specific needs. So we're building it on top of several language models, and then we're training it for our clients. And then we're seeing initial really interesting, good results like high conversions.
Huh. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Um, that's really interesting.
So each company could have their own LeBron James out there winning for them, right? But you got to train it. Did that analogy make sense? I feel like I just made it up, and I don't know if I lost you on that.
No, I'm my head is spinning because how can I use that? How can I use that
Yeah,
for Needle or my brokerage practice
yeah,
or both?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
Happy to talk to you about it whenever you want.
yeah, let's definitely have a follow up on that. With the agency that you have started with your partner, is that like a sales school essentially to help them build a pipeline
No,
or
we do it all for them. So we do basically we have access to close to 350 million global business to business buyers, and then we have built an in-house tool that connects with 43 different AI tools and automation tools to enrich the data. And then once we've enriched the data, we make sure we have the right contact information and all that, and the right triggers, meaning the right sales signals, like either they posting something on social media or they're posting on their company website, on their job board, or the tech stack they're using, or whatever criteria is important for our clients. We can scan for that, and then we put together an outreach tool that's based on all those signals, and then we reach out to them by phone, by email, and by LinkedIn. Usually email, then LinkedIn, then phone, and then we start booking high quality sales meetings with the decision makers for whatever software or solution that our clients are selling. So we started out like a little over a year ago by building these educational tools for startups that we sold to incubators and things like that. And we noticed startups they would pay 5K a pop for this, but they weren't implementing anything. So I was like, man, this doesn't feel right. They're not getting it done. So we started implementing for them and with them. And then as we started doing that, we got inquiries from more sophisticated companies, like not necessarily startups, but the ones that have been around for 7, 8 years. They have several million in sales. They have a small sales team. They're like, we need to get more out of them. So we would find ways to 15 to 20x their best BDR output. So let's imagine we have one BDR or business development rep, or
yeah.
that's what they call them here. So let's say that person spends an average of 3 hours a day doing outreach, right? Then the remaining 5 hours a day is research, follow up, lunch, goofing around, whatever. But the statistics are 3 to 4 hours of pure outreach. And the other time, the rest of the time they're doing research, that they go into their prospect's website, their LinkedIn, then they're thinking about what email to craft, and then all of that, right? So imagine you have a really high performing BDR that has like good outreach results, they're getting good open rates, good reply rates, good connection rates on LinkedIn. It's clicking, right? You get that high performer and they're prepping the appointments for the discovery call for their account executive or sales development rep. So if you're familiar with that idea, like one person doing all that work, we can take what they're doing, optimize it, and enrich it times several thousand. And now you're getting a 20 to 25x output. Instead of hiring 4 or 5 other BDRs, you go with us and we do all the outreach that a BDR would usually do using automation and AI.
So you can reduce your sales force effectively to just have, if maybe you had 8, you can have 2, for instance.
Yeah, so one client that just signed up with us, his budget was to hire 3 more SDRs, and his job description for some of his SDRs was you got to do BDR work. And then we said we can do all the BDR work, so why don't you just hire 2 SDRs and we'll keep them booked. And that's what we're doing is we're going to keep their SDRs booked without having to hire a BDR. Now, with that being said, some industries, which I'm trying to be nice here, I don't want to completely kill the BDR profession. Some industries it may not work, but honestly, I don't know. I haven't seen anything where it wouldn't work yet because, like I said, we're with companies that sell like $1.5 million to $2 million solution to hospitals, and we sell to an ag tech company that sells insect traps to pesticide companies or insect
Mhm.
monitoring. So it's the whole gamut, like whatever it is. It's if you know how to craft and write a good message and you know how to get into their inbox, because the number one reason why people don't read your emails is because you end up in spam. So 96% of our emails end up in the inbox because we use a tool to get in there, an AI tool for that. So once you're in there, now you're in. It's exactly what a BDR would do, right?
Yeah, that's amazing. I started off as a business development rep for a technology company, and it was not the greatest job. It was not a lot of fun because I
No.
didn't even know what we were selling. So it's like, how can I effectively sell it? If I get somebody on the line, how can I effectively sell the solution? So that's
Yeah.
fascinating.
And there's one other thing that's happening. We've been talking to a lot of chief revenue officers and head of sales ops, and without naming it the same way, they've described it all this the same phenomenon, which is there's a bit of a I don't know if you remember this from economics class, the law of diminishing marginal returns. Like for every input you put in, you're getting fewer and fewer marginal return on it. So imagine like the bell curve, like goes up like this, right? So they're hitting this area right now. For every additional BDR they bring in, they're not getting much more marginal return, right? Because each BDR just works 3 hours a day on outreach versus our solution would be 8, 10, 12 hours a day nonstop, just doesn't get hungry, doesn't take breaks. And it's not spamming. Because the number one pushback I get from people is, oh, so you're basically spamming people. No, we've set up our own email servers, we build multiple inboxes, and we only send 30 emails a day per inbox. So then you can scale that times 30, 40, 50 inboxes. But the key is using technology when it's available to do things that are mundane at a fraction of the cost.
That's fascinating. Yeah, I'd love to learn more about that for Needle because I'm in a revenue accelerator program where it's really focusing on who the ideal customers are and the nitty gritty of it. And it's okay, I get it. I've been in sales my whole career. So yeah, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
Um, what I'm curious, what are your thoughts on how technology is going to change? AI is going to change the workforce because
Mm.
a business development rep is how a lot of people get into sales. So this is off the cuff, but speculating. What are your thoughts on how the
I
workforce
think the only people
change?
that should be concerned about AI are the people that refuse to progress and refuse to learn to be a value in the marketplace. So the marketplace values competence, right? So if you're competent in an area right now that you see AI taking over, whether it's critical thinking or copywriting or design or whatever, oh my God, ChatGPT is going to kill my job. Then guess what? You need to redefine yourself. It's the happiest people that I've met, and according to the books that I've read, are the ones that keep progressing, keep learning, keep discovering new aspects of themselves they didn't know they had in them. So AI is going to change, is changing
Hmm.
everyone's life forever. There's Sam Altman from OpenAI saying he'll have artificial general intelligence in 7 months. And he's trying to raise a mega fund of like trillions of
Seven
dollars to develop.
trillion.
Yeah, whether he gets to seven or one or half a trillion, it's just still impressive. But his vision is for us to move forward, we need to have better chip capacity. We can't just rely on NVIDIA. Another one came out, Grok, which is a language chip and a language learning model that is faster than OpenAI. So all this is happening whether we like it or not. It's a bit of an unstoppable train. You can either
Yeah.
get on or sit there on the tracks and hope that the train doesn't hit you, but it's going to hit you. So get on
Yeah.
the train, learn what you got to learn. I understand if you are up there in age, in your 60s, 50s, 60s. I'm 50 this year. So 60s, let's just call that. I don't want to consider myself old. I get they can be threatening, but there's got to be somewhere you can add value in the marketplace. And you got to learn. So th those are my thoughts. I don't think it's going to be that's I think AI is going to be used for evil for sure, but that doesn't mean all in all it can't be a good force.
Yeah, I was, I think you're right because I had a call with a gentleman who runs a brokerage coaching organization, and he's all in on AI and trying to help his clients implement these solutions when they're launching listings and things like that. So
Mm-hmm.
he was pretty excited to see what we're doing with Needle. So that was, you're right. It's a freight train that's coming, and you can either sit there on the tracks and get hit by it, get run over, or you can try and hop on.
I think so, yeah. It's not like it's impossible. There's so much free training out there, so many great content providers, just YouTube alone. Just go in there and start goofing around. Just look around or buy a course. There's so many courses out there for a few $100. You can get trained in just about anything. And I think each industry has its AI champion. There's always going to be an influencer or a course creator for different industries. So whatever industry you're in, you're like, okay, don't ask how is AI going to change my job. Find out like how can I use AI to do a better job? How can I make my job more or less obsolete and be the first one to it rather than my boss coming to me and saying, hey, we just hired this company and they're doing an efficiency study and they realize that AI can do half your job. So we're gonna let you go. Versus saying, hey, I found this thing that's gonna replace my job. Like I actually had this conversation. This was before AI. This was years ago with probate data. I had this kid working for us, Daniel, and part of his job was to go online and scrape data. And this is before I didn't even know about web scraping that it existed. He's, oh man, I just found something. I go, what? What's the problem? He goes, I just fired myself. I go, I'm the one to fire and hire. You tell me what happened. I found this tool. It's called web scraping, but look, check it out. And he set it up so where I could go to a website and then look up case information and put it together in a spreadsheet. I go, wow. I go, damn, Daniel, that's amazing. He's like, yeah, but that's what I was doing as my job. I go, trust me, I was about to hire someone else. Like, I have something else for you. This is great. So I saw someone who took initiative. I saw someone who's thought ahead on behalf of the company, and he saw what was coming, and he put himself on the line. I don't know. Okay, here it is. Do I still have a job here? And me being the business owner that I was, I valued this. I go, of course, man. You this level of thinking, this way of looking at the world is what we want here. And we kept him for as long as we could because then he realized he was too smart for us and he was too limited, and he just left, which I'm okay with. In all my companies, I've never expected people to stay forever. And especially like working with younger people that are looking for a launching pad in their career. And I'm happy to give them those skills for the first 2, 3 years and until they get into the next level. So we've had a few of those in our companies. But
Well,
anyways, that's a
it,
long-winded way of answering your question.
and that's a thought on relationships and how you develop people as they're adding value. Like we've seen people transition through our firm, Capstone. And at first, I'm like, man, they're deserting us. But then what happens is they go to either other brokerage shops or they go to the principal side and, oh, now I have a friend on the other side. And it's, I would imagine for you, you probably can still call him if you need something from him or if he's got a connection that
Yeah,
maybe he can help you with.
one guy worked with us. This is a different someone else. He worked with us for 2 years, like really brilliant. And then he's, I mean, I'm really interested in data analytics and large language models. And this, what is that? This is 7, 8 years ago. So he moved on. He got like a junior position. Now he's like a senior data analyst for a big company. And we chatted 3 weeks ago because I had a question around data analytics and like I had an idea I wanted to explore with him. And sure enough, he's part of my network and he's getting married this year. And I was excited for him. And we're talking shop a little bit. It's if you own a business and as you're building a company, you're not your role is more of one of an accelerator of sorts of people's success, right? You build a system where people can excel if they're connected to the vision and they see how their skill set, how their gifts and their skill set, their desires align with those of the company and the vision. And then you just unleash their gift into the company and they get rewarded too. The company benefits. And then if they outgrow it, they move on. But you had, as a business leader and a business owner, you were able to give that to someone while at the same time your company benefited. It's a all-in-one win-win.
Yeah, it's a true win,
Yeah, yeah.
or it seems like it is. It doesn't have to be. It's not a zero sum game. Like some things are, like brokerage is a zero sum game.
Hmm.
There's only one broker that's going to win the listing or one buyer who's going to win the deal. If you
Hmm.
foster good people and good relationships, like I've got some great guys who are younger on my team, and we want to do everything we can do to keep them, retain them, but also help them grow in their career because you never know where it's going to lead. And they've got great talents too. So yeah, that's adding value, just like you were saying.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. This is fascinating. My head is spinning. I'm just like, man, there's so many different possibilities. What's I don't know, what else would you like to talk about?
So many different directions this could go. Because I think a question in people's minds, like, where's it going to go? But last year it was NFTs, and before that it was Bitcoin. There's always something that has people obsessed. And obviously now in the States, it's the election coming up. But this year alone, 40% of the world's population is electing new leadership. So I
It's
think
true.
we're going into a really big shift as humanity, as a population, as a people. And the next leaders we choose, no matter what country you're in, what side of the aisle you're in, will have a huge impact on in culture and in development. But when I see people being afraid of what's happening next, whether whoever gets elected, let's say in the States or elsewhere, I'm a bit sad for that because I see that they've given up their personal power to decide what experience they want to have in life, what they want to do. Because at the end of the day, no matter who's in power, to a certain extent, you have agency and you have power over your life. You have to make your own decisions, your own choices, and you can choose to worry about things or you can choose to learn new skills, choose to redefine yourself, choose to be less of a consumer and be more of a citizen. By that, I mean spend less time on social media, binge watching, and just me again, and spend more time on thinking, okay, what would a good citizen be? What would that look like? Consuming is all about me and it's about dopamine release. And that's what social media apps are good at, releasing dopamine so we get hooked on it. Whereas things that take longer time and build relationships and builds community that releases serotonin and oxytocin, which has been proven to prolong your life and give you a happier life. So I just hope that regardless of elections that are coming on, that people remember what it's all about. And that is to have a sense of family, have a sense of community, have a sense of a true sense of what you can contribute. I think too many people have really become estranged from themselves, have become estranged from nature, and have become estranged from spirit, whatever you want to call it, God, spirit, the universe.
Yeah.
So that level of estrangement and divorce from really that truth beyond all truth seems to be driving people a bit crazy and besides themselves, literally besides themselves. They don't recognize themselves anymore. And yeah,
Yeah.
I think we all have agency and we all have choices to make. And a book that I'm thinking about right now is I read it a while ago. It's called 4,000 Weeks by Oliver Berkman. It's you have to make choices. You only have 4,000 weeks in your life, roughly. So be okay with saying no to a lot of things so you can say yes to the one thing that matters to you more than anything else.
Yeah, that's awesome and interesting. I think that you're right that people maybe part of it is that people just are trying to find somewhere to fit in and so they just take adopt these extreme positions within whatever political party and then I don't know. Politics is a dirty game. I've been listening a lot to The History of Rome. It's like a podcast series on Spotify. And it's 10 years old. Came out in
Oh,
2010. Actually, so
nice.
14 years old. But the guy does a great job with just detailing the history. And history rhymes. It doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. And so the names are different, but some of the happenings are Oh, that's interesting. The
Mm,
people are
mm.
upset for various reasons.
Yeah.
Sounds similar.
Yeah. No, it's true. It's very true. It's
Yeah.
very true. If you think about a business and you think about technology, that's just another part of culture, right? So I think a business exists to change the world, for lack of a better term. If you're in it just to make a buck, you will lose out. But if you're in it to make a difference, you'll always find a way.
Yeah, or to serve. I think of it as I think of my brokerage practice as I'm here to serve, right? I'm trying to represent my clients to the best of my ability to get them the highest and best price and terms so that they can deliver those to their investors and they can continue to do well. And hopefully that as they're owning and managing these properties, they're serving their tenants by something I learned early on in my brokerage career when I came here to Cincinnati. I was touring this deal and it was rough. It was like 280 units. And I said to the guy I was touring, and this guy had built 20,000 units through his career. And he's Stash, if you deliver a clean, safe place to live and you respond to their maintenance requests, you're always going to have tenants. And so that was
Hmm.
his example of serving. And so,
Hmm.
even if you're a grain merchant, you're still serving.
Hmm.
So, yeah, I think. And then with Needle, what we're trying to do with that is we're trying to serve the brokerage community to be better at what they're doing. Because the
Yeah.
shotgun approach that you and I practiced when we were literally making 150 calls a day, no
Yeah.
joke.
Yeah.
Um,
And we didn't have a dialer. We literally sat there and punched the numbers in.
yeah, desk phone right there. That's it's a way to do it. It's not necessarily the best way to do it. So
But I also think it's a good rite of passage to doing it the complicated, hard way. Is so how bad do you want this? What are you learning from it? Because if you only do what's easy all the time, you never find out what you're made out of.
yeah, that's an interesting thing. I've thought and read various books through the years about former cultures or even maybe even current cultures. They have like rites of passage, and it doesn't seem like we really in at least the modern American culture that there's a formal rite of passage. Yeah, you turn 18, but there's no, yeah, you can vote.
Yeah, it's funny. I was talking to my wife about this the other day. We're talking about different men and women and why they're so different in many different ways. And I said, girls, they have life thrown at them with their first menstruation. It's a physical
Yeah.
happening. It's, oh, okay, this just happened. I'm now officially, quote unquote, biologically defined as a woman. Like I'm able to carry a child. Like this is all of a sudden, like it just happens. Like it just, they don't have it, it just happens to them. For boys, there's no such event unless there's an iteration in what do you call it? Initiation by the elders. Like elders,
Yeah.
whether it's the father, uncle, or grandparents or grandfather, like the elder men or elders males will need to take this kid through an initiation process where the boy realizes the awesomeness and the strength of his masculinity and the dangers of it too. And then how are you going to serve the village with that? What are you going to do with it? But that's been eliminated or postponed or forgotten about over the last 20, 30 years, or maybe even longer. You have some cultures where, for example, in the Jewish culture, you put them up on the bar mitzvah, they have to read, they have to study, they have to hold a sermon, they have to educate their community, they have to read Hebrew. It's a lot of hard work, it's a lot of studying, it's embarrassing, it's public speaking, but you got to face your community and you're there. And then girls get to do it as well. And I imagine in for Catholics or for Christians, there's a confirmation. I think it's around age 14 or something like that,
Yeah,
right?
that's true.
And in Mexico is quinceañera, which is 15 or 16, but that's I don't know if that's for girls or for boys.
I think the
I'm not sure.
quinceanera is for girls.
For girls, right? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But my point is, like, I think if you, no matter the culture, there is a probably long forgotten initiation rites for taking young boys into the area of manhood, which means you learn how to be responsible and find meaning through responsibility.
Yeah, I think I don't remember which Native American culture it was, but you'd have to go out into the woods for 10 days or something like that and survive on your own. And you wouldn't know it, but there would be somebody like tracking you and keeping an eye on you just in
Hmm.
case you got into danger. But you'd come out on the other side with this sense and feeling of accomplishment. And
Hmm.
that's, oh, okay. And so now you're in the club. That doesn't mean that everything's going to be easy because life definitely isn't easy. But
No,
yeah,
but you get some
it's
things
interesting.
thrown upon you. It's like you have to like I think for boys they have to physically get thrown into difficulty to find out what to find the courage, to find what it means to have responsibility and to take that on. That doesn't happen just up here. Like I think boys and men, they learn through physical interaction and action with their environment.
Yeah.
They learn their limits that way.
Yeah. I know for myself, I've always gone to the gym as a way to just keep my physical and mental fitness intact because
Hmm.
without it, I'll drive myself up a wall. And the
Hmm.
days that I miss the gym, I just feel off all day,
Hmm. Hmm.
which has nothing to do with the rite of passage, but it speaks to what you're talking about of
Hmm.
we need physical stimulation.
For sure. Yeah.
Definitely took a right-hand turn there, didn't it?
Yeah. Well, conversation, interesting conversation with interesting people. That's what happens.
That's what it is. Exactly. This has been tremendous. I really appreciate your time, Jonathan. If somebody wants to get in touch with you to learn about the agency or probatedata.com or anything else that you're doing, what's the best way to get?
Yeah, I think LinkedIn is the best way. Just find me on LinkedIn, Jonathan Khorsandi, and just connect with me there. I respond to all my inquiries there myself. I don't have any assistant or agency that does that for me. So yeah, just reach out.
Awesome. That's about it. That's all I got. So,
All right,
Jonathan,
man. Well, it's good to see you.
yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And we'll be in touch.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll talk soon, okay?
All right.